guys, so as I mentioned in the before video, a couple of things we've just kind of noticed in the babysitting world that would be helpful both to babysitting families and to babysitters. That Byanca and I really felt kind of a passion to start sharing some information. Both of us are kind of natural teachers. And so I wanted to relay some information that would be helpful both to the families and to the babysitters. Looking at possibly referring babysitters, it has actually come to my attention that I want to make sure the families that I recommend to the babysitters are sound and safe and somebody that I can send a babysitter to, as well as on the other side, of course, I want to make sure that the babysitter is going to meet the expectations that a family is going to have, that she's going to meet certain standards and be able to care for children. Both sides are very important. Again, as I talked about in my last video, now I am sending my treasure out to watch your treasures, and it's really important to me that that you guys can trust that she's going to do a good job for you guys and make sure your children are safe, as well as I want to make sure that my daughter is safe as well. So it's both sides of the coin, and this is very weird for me, but it is important information. So with that, I will be putting out a worksheet, and I am actually asking that all the families on our babysitting list in the Facebook group fill this out. I'll have a printable that you can do. And this is for other people too. Like, you can make a worksheet. I will have a link soon, probably in my blog, with that worksheet, because I'm going to post this to my blog as well. So that you can print these out, because this is important information that every babysitter should know, not just for the babysitter, but for the safety of your children. So one of the things is, obviously, the children need your name and phone number. This seems so obvious, but it's so true. It's something you don't think about until, like, you leave, and then the babysitter's like, I don't know the phone number to call to get a hold of the parents. Have you ever had that happen, Bea?
Yeah. Or like you're babysitting for so many people, you forget their names occasionally, and then you're like, who am I trying to call again? I don't remember exactly. So that's always just good to have for a reference, just in case you forget.
Yeah, so having this sheet of paper on the refrigerator for every new babysitter that comes in, it's good for both you and them. Having the address that they are at, in case they ever have to call for emergency purposes, they need the phone number, where they're at, and they need the address so that they can give that. Plus the cross streets. If you live anywhere out that's not normal, you definitely need to at least allow the babysitter to have some information about directions to get there. Because, I mean, think about when you were a babysitter, moms, if you ever babysat, there's so much information in that first 10 minutes that that the parents have to relay, and they're not going to remember every single thing. So this stuff is important. They need the children's names, ages, and descriptions in case they get lost, or they go, if they have an older child, if you have an older child and they go play with their friends in the neighborhood, you don't want this babysitter walking around trying to find this child without a very good description. That's not a good idea. It seems kind of obvious again, but it is important, right?
Especially if you're going to a new house and you don't know if, like, they're coming home from something else or something like that, and you don't know exactly what the child looks like. That can be a little bit of an issue. So you're like, I don't really know. So it would be good to have just a basic description, like hair color, age, all that good stuff.
Which leads into the next piece of information. It's really important to give as many names and numbers and addresses of the neighbors as you possibly can, and with the child's names if you know them, because if your child goes to play with these kids and she says, hey, I'm going over to Julia's house, or whoever, the babysitter has a reference of who that actually is and can actually go and get them. Yeah, I don't even want to go into the reasons on that, but I'm sure you can imagine, moms, when you babysat, again, being the babysitter and not knowing where one of the children is because they said they're going to go play at a friend's house, which is probably normal to them, but it's not normal. It's not a regular thing for that babysitter. She hasn't dealt with that particular child or neighborhood or all of that before. This is all new for them, so it's very important to have that. Medications and allergies. hugely important. Obviously, if your child has a strong allergy, you don't want your child going into shock, or and that's difficult for the babysitter. So they need to be aware. Medication should never, ever, 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 ever be in the hands of the child to tell the babysitter when their medication should be taken and how much they should take. What do you think on that, Bea?
Yeah, because if like they tell you a certain time and that's wrong, that can affect them, or it can affect me, and I know personally that's not very fun to have to deal with, try and figure out if they actually need to take this, or if they're just saying that because they like the taste or something like that. I've dealt with that before, and that's not fun to try and figure out if they should actually be taking this.
Yeah, so you can, we're doing this with both me and Bea, so you can kind of hear from both perspectives, the mom perspective and the babysitter's perspective. This is a scary thing for a babysitter. If they don't know, then...
Oh, sorry, one more thing with that is, like, if, it's also good to know where medicine will be, like Tylenol for kids, anything like that, because I know if someone gets hurt, or if they need something and you don't know where it is, it's kind of stressful to try and find that while you have like a crying child or something like that. So it's good to know where medicine is, because everybody keeps it. Yeah, everybody keeps it different places, so it's hard to know. So
that's a good point.
A good thing to know.
It's a good point. So it's I know it feels like a lot to cover, but this is the welfare of your child, the well-being. It's so important, guys. Name and number family doctor is really good in case of an emergency. Of course, we hope nothing ever happens while they're being babysat, but you just never know. The other thing, okay, so emergency contacts, family, friends, relatives, that can also be neighbors. Just make sure that they have a phone number for them.
At least one, maybe two. You don't usually need more than that. You hopefully won't need any of them, but...
Yeah, definitely. It's the more information you can give a babysitter, the more that you can leave with a sound mind, knowing that your kids are going to be fine. So important. You don't want to have to be worried about it the whole time if you're in a meeting or you're, out on a date with your spouse. You don't want to have to worry about this stuff. The more information a babysitter has, the better. So... the other thing is, and so these are more of each time that you have a babysitter, you really should be discussing this with them. Where are you going and when you're going to be back? It's okay to set a time and then, hey, we're having fun. Can we take another hour? Just make sure you communicate that with the babysitter. Never leave them with an open-ended time. This is stressful. To me as a mom, that's really stressful because... we plan a lot of our stuff around making sure that our kids are home and we're home when they're home, and yeah, they have a key typically so they can get home, but I worry about my own daughter when she's been out for 5 or 6 hours and babysitting. It's just not a safe thing for them to necessarily do and not have a time. It's just important to have an end time, and if you're going to be, it's better to have the end time and call and communicate with the babysitter. Hey, can we have one more hour? Because then she can call her parents and say, hey, they're going to be one more hour, and then they know what's going on. Communication and all of this is just so key. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess especially for if you have a babysitter that's under the age of 16 or 18 or whatever, they can't drive themselves. That's especially good because if they need a ride or something else, their parents need to know where they are also on top of that. So, yeah.
Just good stuff. And remember, these are also still kids. She's still a kid. So she's a great babysitter. She loves kids. She's pretty good at getting the kids into a routine once she's babysat for them a couple of times. But she is still a kid, and there is only so much. Think about it, moms. How much can we handle our own kids on our own for hours and hours and hours? We're so fortunate to have that spouse to come in and just help us out. We tag team it. A babysitter for a long period of time, let's say a full day, they really need some relief. And I say that with much love, and having been there myself. We've had babysitters come for an entire weekend sometimes, and sometimes we'd even have grandparents come in and take them for a little bit so the babysitter can have a little bit of a break. So I understand circumstances, but remember that they are still kids. I'm sure if you have someone that's 16 and older, though, they can handle quite a bit more. Anyways, so bedtime routines, and I'm going to discuss some of this stuff in further depth later too. Bedtime routines are really important to know. You don't want a child crying because they didn't get their story read to them or whatever they're used to. That just makes it a little more stressful for the babysitter. If they know these things ahead of time, then they can take care of those, and they want to. I mean, they want to put the kids to bed in a fun manner, right?
Yeah. And it's also good to know, like, which child needs to wear a diaper, which child you need to make sure they go potty, things like that, so that you, because I know it's not in the front part of my brain usually, and trying to get the kids to bed, so it doesn't usually, like, it's helpful to know exactly what I need to do and have a reminder so I don't forget.
Also good to note if you have any sleepwalkers or children that don't want to stay in bed, what the babysitter can do for that, which does lead right into our last couple of things. It's really important to give your babysitters a strategy for misbehavior. You know, I will be training, if I work with referrals, I will talk about a timeout system, which is incorporated from Super Nanny, which works really well. I've used it many times myself. But if you have a specific way that you handle things, it's really important to let the babysitter know, especially if there's any disabilities, personality traits, or issues that you've just had in the past. It's so important to let those babysitters know. It gives them that better opportunity to make sure that they are consistent with what you are trying to do, because they really are trying to really partner with you and care for your kids the way that you would care for your kids. And also, they want to have a fun time with your kids. You know, they don't want to be the babysitter when you say, "Oh, we're getting the babysitter." The kids are like, "Ah, no!" They want your kids to be excited when they're going to come over, and creating these couple of things can help create a good environment both for your children and for the babysitter. Any last thoughts, Bea?
Maybe one more thing to add, like, this isn't a need, but if, like, you're comfortable with, like, if it's an all-day job or something like that, if there's, like, a park in the area that you can go to or something like that, because I know staying in the house all day isn't fun for the kids or the babysitter. So if there's, like, a park in the area you're comfortable with us going to, that would be good to include. I mean, it's not a need, but that would be also good. So,
yeah, that's always good. Activities that the kids like to do, especially if it's a longer babysitting job. Any of those kinds of things. Again, it may seem like a lot. The sheet of paper is going to help so that you have this for babysitters all the time, and it's just could be on your fridge or whatever. But those couple of things that you have to hit on each babysitting job shouldn't really be too much if you have the piece of paper. It's just those few every single time things, where you're going, you know, bedtime routines, all of that kind of stuff, where the medications are and, you know, Band-Aids and first aid stuff. So, well, guys, thanks so much for listening to our video and watching us discuss these things. We hope that you will take these things to heart and consider them for your next babysitting job and implement them right away. I will try and get a worksheet out as soon as possible that has all this stuff on there. Otherwise, just put it on a yellow piece of paper. I mean, just put it down. It's just so important. This is the well-being of your children. So, all right, guys, bye.
bye.